Morning chillins, painters and decorators of the interweb. It's Phil Beckwith back with another instalment on advanced wallpapering. I'll say advanced, it's not advanced is it, it's paste the wall. Got another Casa Deco wallpaper, paste the wall. Quite simple, you paste the wall, hang your wallpaper. There's nothing complicated about that. The only complication is read the instructions. Always read the instructions. Right, it's paste the wall, it's peelable, it's wipeable, and it's got the little sunshine which makes it what do they call it, light tolerant. I'll put a link on, I'll put it on. It's to do with the light, it doesn't fade in the light. Can't remember the terminology. Ugh, probably forgotten more things than I remember. Anyway, this is a straight through match, 53 centimeters. It's not a problem. Can waste a little bit of paper. It's nice to have a straight through match, but 53 centimeters, quite big, isn't it? That's just over half a meter. But never mind, we can sort that out. But what I want to talk about is awkward wallpapering. What I mean awkward wallpapering. Look at this. I'm in an old house, old cottage. The old cottage has got loads of beams, and that makes it very difficult for wallpapering, but not if you know what you're doing. And this is why I'm going to tell you the best way to approach jobs like this, where you've got beams, you've got light fittings to cut around that I can't take off. Well, I don't like touching electrics. We've got, so let's have a look, we've done previously, and I'll do the link, papering round reveals. Got a window reveal there, and then we're coming back into a chimney breast. Now we've been on this the last few days. Brian, I've told you before, Brian's been with us since 1966, so do the maths. It's now 2022, still with us, over 70, still working hard, full time. Well, I say full time, he has Fridays off now, perk of the job. But this was all lined, I did the lining. It's been 1000 lining. If we're wallpapering over lining paper, it's minimum of 800 grade lining paper. If you don't know about grade lining papers, give some comments, I'll explain it to you. Personal message you, different grades. I think we start at basic is what, 480. I think it's 480. I've not used that since college. 480, 600. You've got 800, you've got 1000. It's all to do with the thickness. Then you go 1200, 1400. I think there's a 17, 1800, 2000. Is there 2400? Is there 2200? And it goes thicker. And don't forget, then you've got your fibre liners, which is your wall rock, stroke, your anaglypta, used to be back in the day, armadillo. Now that's your fibres all interlinked. That's the paste the wall lining paper. That's another one. But no, we've lined the walls and stuff like this, because it's an old cottage. If you run your hands over the walls, I'm not saying it's a corrugated iron wall, but it feels very up and down. So why do we line? I've discussed this in previous videos. It gives you a sound, even surface, and even colour, and it's a nice surface to work on. It makes your paper last longer, and also particularly how the state of these walls were. A lot of electrical work had been done where they'd been chopping out for lights. You've got chopping out and refilling, so that is an uneven surface colour. You've got your reddish browny plastery colours, then you got it emulsioned. You don't want to be wallpapering over that sort of thing, and I don't want anybody saying, oh Phil, what you do is you emulsion over it. No, that's not a good way of doing it, because your paste could react with your emulsions and it could soften it up. So don't put yourself in that situation. Line it properly. Get a nice lining paper, 800 or 1000 or more, depending on the condition of the walls. But this, it's at 1000. It's very nice and smooth now, as best it can. I've just gone over it with some sandpaper where I've got the joints. I'm going to come on to my joints. Where I've got my joints, I've just nibbed them down. I've just made sure there's no little bits, because another problem is when you get light fittings like this, you can sometimes get little bits of grit, even though you've vacuumed them out and blown them out. Little bits of grainy sand dropping out of these fittings, just bound your lining paper, so you've got to be mindful of that. Vac them out, dust them out, So if you go over with a bit of sandpaper, you just get rid of those. Now you're going to say to me, Phil, what are you on about joints on your lining paper? Well, we don't have joints on lining paper. We don't do any gaps. We don't do any filling. You get butt joints. Now, really, you want to be doing cross lining. Now on this job, particularly with the beams, there is no way, I'm coming round, there's no way I was going to be cross lining these walls. The ceilings are all over the place. I didn't want to start at the bottom and work up. I didn't want to be doing the length of a wall like that with lining paper. So for ease, and there's no problem, don't let anybody tell you there's a problem hanging lining paper vertically, because there's not. Forget this about it expands when you put paste on it. I've never had it. 32 years of me decorating, never had lining paper expand on me when I put wallpaper over it. Use tub paste. That's one of the reasons stuff could get softened up, because tub paste has got a low water content, and when you're using tub paste on specialist papers, you're not going to get that problem of over soaking anything on the wall for the lining. So that's probably why we've never even had it. But it isn't an issue lining vertically. The joints, you can see well, you can't see the joints. I've got butt joints. They're on. You can just see it. Just take my word for it. They're on, and then they go slightly off. Now that's because of the wall is going in and out, in and out. Now that can take your lining paper, and even your finished papers, and make it harder to get across, because it's making the paper stretch further because the wall's going in and out. I'm baffling you with science. Tell you what, let's have a break and I'll come back and talk to you a bit more. See you in a minute. So I'm back. You've had that 15-second break intro. Just talking about lining paper. No problem hanging it vertically. We hang the lining paper with the paste that we're going to be hanging the finished wallpaper on, and it's tub paste. And you know what I like? We've got Wix tub adhesive. It's just nice. You can dilute it to taste. For when you're doing lining paper, you can thin it slightly so you can apply it. I've had my paste table. I brushed the lining paper, because the 1000 lining paper is a good 10-minute soak, so there's no point me doing it any quicker. I could have used a roller on it. If you've got a pasting machine, you could use that, but if you pasted lengths, what's the point of having 3 pasted lengths if you're going to be 10 minutes waiting for it to soak, and then you've got tricky cuts like that? There's no point. You might as well do 1 stroke 2 at a time. So that's what I've done, no problem with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get on with some papering. I'm going to show you what my first length is, because what I've done, I've gone around the whole room, obviously sanded it. I've worked out, I'm going to go from this door frame. I'm going to go from the door frame slightly in at the top. I'm not going to go straight against the door frame, of course I'm not, because that might not be true. I've got my laser liner, you can see that there, with a line going up and down the wall. Now I've allowed that wallpaper there just to overlap the top slightly. When I mean overlap the top, it's not against the frame, it's going across the top there. Now I've just taken it in slightly, and I've marked it. Let's put my paper down. I've marked it on the wall. I've marked it on the wall, and I've got the laser liner to follow that line all the way down. And all the way down that laser line, you can see, because I'm covering the laser at the minute, all the way down, I've just done a little pencil mark. I've done the pencil mark on the wall, so I know where that first length's going to go, and it's going to be plumb. Now if you've got a plumb bob, use a plumb bob. You'll use the same principle, but buy yourself a laser liner. Oh, that reminds me, that's that laser liner reviewed a few weeks ago. You can win that at the end of the month, so please like, subscribe. We'll do that competition at the end of the month to win a laser liner. That one that was linked there. Yeah. So what we're going to do, my first one, I'm going to paste this wall just beyond where the line is and beyond there, and hang my first length. Now this pattern on this paper, can you see it? I've got a run on papers at the minute that aren't very bold, but that is a repeat. You can just see, you can see the pattern there. That's a repeat of 53 centimeters. So I'll hang that length, get it down, and you hang off the roll, and then I'll match it up, make sure that I've got the right positioning of the pattern, paste that next section, and then hang that one, matching it all up. Simple. Anybody can do wallpapering. But what I'm going to do, when I come to a tricky bit, I'm going to stop, get my camera out, film that little bit of a tricky bit, and we'll explain what I do on tricky cuts. I don't want this to be an hour video. The intro is probably telling you and explaining what I've done, probably 10 minutes. But when we come to each section, you'll see what each section of the wallpapering job is. Now, I've already done window reveals before, so I won't probably do that one. I've even got a link. Let's do a link over that corner. Is it that corner or that corner? For cutting around a socket. So I don't want to talk about that again. I'll give you a link for that. But where we come to the lights, which you've got to get your paper around that, I've obviously got to do a cut, and I'll show you how you do that, and then I'll also show you how to do the tricky cuts going around the beams. And this is real world wallpapering. This isn't in a college. This isn't in a college with perfect door frames, perfect ceilings, perfect skirtings. This is literally a room that's, I can't say house that Jack built, but it's old, it's all over the place. But what I've done, just so I know, because we've got vertical, I'll just touch on this, we've got vertical joints. What I don't want is this wallpaper corresponding with the joints of the lining paper. Now thankfully, wallpaper and lining paper are two different sizes. Lining paper is slightly wider, it's probably about an inch and a bit wider. So hopefully, and I know it won't match, when you go round, make sure you offer up your paper all the way around your walls so you know how it's going to fall. Now I've done that to all of this room. I know where every length will be within an inch, and I know that when I come down to these corners, I'm not going to be needing a little strip like that, because I've worked it out that the length that goes into the corner to be returned back will be a decent width. Now I've spoke about on previous videos, let's do another link up at the top for going into angles, how you do angles that are running out, so we've already covered that one. What today I want to be really talking about cutting around things like this and cutting things like this to keep it simple. Let's try and do half an hour video on it. So away we go. Shall we get started? And I'll see you a bit later on. So bye for now. Right, decorated the interweb. People who are learning wallpapering. I hope you can see this. I'm coming up to a main, what do you call it, a joist beam. Can you see there? I've got me, well, call it the first length, down that door frame, all plumbed up. Got this second length on. I've got it up to the top, got the match. Make sure you offer the paper up and check your match before you start pasting the wall, because you might think, oh, you've got the match, and then no, it's not. So I've got the match, I've got this length on, and I work off the roll. And when I mean off the roll, I'm not cutting it on the board and using just one length at a time. I'm actually working off the roll of wallpaper. So if you have to trim some off the top, so you're not working with a lot of excess, do that, and that's what I've done there. I've just trimmed the top. Right, let's go back to basics. Get your joint matching up, and unfortunately everybody, sorry, it's a pale paper. You can't really see it, but you just have to take my word on this. Get your joint matching up with your pattern, and this is 53 centimetre repeat. So every 53 centimetres the same pattern's coming through, and it's a straight through pattern, so it goes all the way through. It's not half drop where the pattern's there on one side and then it's half the distance. If it, call it 50, if it was a 50 centimetre half drop, the pattern would be repeating on a cross angle every 25 centimetres to do. You'd understand that. It's not straight through. Half drop is half the distance between the repeat. Right, we're not talking about that. So I've got my joint all matching up. Because this wall goes, I called it corrugated earlier, in and out, you drop your length down and you try and butt up, and it's not, because your paper's having to go further or not so far as it would be if it was a true flat straight wall. That's where your skills of decorating coming in. So actually work your joints, move it, don't be afraid to get your hanging brush, move it across. You don't want gaps on your butt joints, you want them across and tight. Once you've got them across and tight, like here, I can feel it, there's nothing proud, but just where your joint is, get your seam roller. Now this is a single arm seam roller. It's not barrel too much. You can get a barrel one that looks like a Cooper's barrel, like from the Drayman's, like a pub. That's quite flat, so just get your joints down, make sure they're all the way down. We've done that. I've done top to bottom, and down at the bottom I'd got a plug socket. That was straightforward. Hang your paper over the plug socket as it's in place, mark the 4 corners, cut to the 4 corners, peel it back, unscrew the screws so you can get it all the way out, and then feed the plug socket or light switch through the gap, trimming off the excess so you've just got a little bit of an overlap. I spoke about this on a previous video. Check the link out that I showed you earlier. What I want to show you now is coming up to this beam, and this beam is taking in, if you can see that, a big chunk of the paper. Now it takes the big chunk of the paper, that corner, you can see it, I don't know if you can, and then it comes back up this other side of the beam. So out of this paper, you can see that, I'm going to take a good piece out of that. Now you're going to say, how do you do it? Right, I'm going to show you how I do it. Get yourself your pencil, HB pencil, that's what you need. Nothing too hard, nothing too soft. I've got one in my pocket. And what you want to be doing is moving the paper. Well, let's make it even simpler. Right. Really simple. You know that between, let's call it there, bring it in 1/2 inch. Between there and there, you're lining your paper up with your joints. You know, between there and there, it's quite straight, it's not tapering. You can cut that piece out, and I'm putting it on an angle so we're not going to cut back into there. So let's find that corner there and find that corner there, and that's what you need to do. So offer it up with your pencil under the side, where you'll see it. Just mark where that corner is and bring your pencil mark towards you. Done it there, and let's do it the same side. Now I'm going to get the shears. I'm working with shears, so I'm not using a blade too much on this because the ceiling's that all over the place. I couldn't rely on it being right, so I'm cutting up and I'm coming across to where that pencil mark is. So I'm pulling it away, dropping it down. Don't be frightened to pull away from what's already stuck to the wall. Stick that so you can see it. The pencil mark's there. Let me bring that down. Zoom you in if I can. I've got a pencil mark there, and I've got a pencil mark there. So I'm going to bring that cut just short of where that pencil mark is. Let's fold that away, and the same that side. Alright, so I've got the corners. Get your blade out, because this is where you will need your blade. Feed that back up. Feeding it back up, getting it back on the joint. And I'm feeding that corner around. I'm not worried about this one at the minute. And around there. We'll come to that one in a minute. That one will come to in a minute. Have I said that 3 times yet? What I want to be looking at is just working that in with the fingers. Let's cut that excess off. Feed that up to the top with the fingers. Feed it into that corner. Let's get you back up there. Feed it with your fingers into that corner. Draw your fingers across that ceiling line and down that side. Now this is where I will, you see my eyes, this is where I will use my blade to release the pressure from these rounded corners of the beam. And it's rounded because it's wood. It's not a squared off straight beam. So where I've got my first cut, I'm just going to feed it carefully with a sharp blade. Make sure it's sharp. This is one of the Olfler black blades. I'm just going to carefully cut and release the pressure. There, I've released the pressure. it goes in slightly, and this is where your time's taken by cutting neatly. There's a bit of a shape to that, so I'm going to feed it in with the fingers, push it in with the end of the flat blade there so it's all the way in. Feed it round, just nice little cuts. There you go. Same with the bottom. Gently cut it round. Follow the line. Anything excess that I don't want to see, I'm cutting off. There, that's gone in nicely. Now, it's the same on this corner here. Carefully cut it. No need to rush. That's that. And with this being a non-woven, it's not going to rip on you. Trim that excess off there. So now I'm just going to put some easy relief cuts across that length of paper there. Can you see? Get you off the camera and show you. So because this is shaped, I've put some release cuts in it so I can get, a bit like going around a sealing centre. Look, I've done some cuts so I can get it into there, all the way in, all the way in there. Release cuts there. And then I'm going to, with the pencil, mark that into the corner and mark it round, then pull it away and cut with the shears. You're going to say you could use a blade. I could do, but I'd rather know that I've got the shape with the shears and the pencil and not relying on the blade. The same principle on this side. You can see I've got the corner there, it's pulling back, and I'll use the blade and I'll cut it to that shape of the wood there, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll put you back on, I'll film it, and then we'll fast forward it. So see you in a second. Right, that's it done. I speeded that up a little bit because it was a bit time consuming. Let's just show you what I've done and what I've not done and the reason why. So I've done that. I cut it, I don't know whether you can see it. I marked it in there with a pencil, cut the corner so it released it to get in. Marked it all the way across there. You see that? Can't really see it, can you? Oh. And then coming down, used my blade just to ease it round these corners there. Got it round all the way. Make sure you push it in with your fingers, get it all pushed in. Got that round there, and then I've come to this side. And I've left that for now to trim off when I put this length on, because I don't want that. Let's pull it off because it's quite workable, this paste. I don't want that cutting in the wrong position there, or pull it out too far across, if that makes sense. So doing it this way, I've got a little bit of tolerance. You see how I've cut into these shapes there. I've cut into those as well. You can't really see it on the camera. I need to push them in because I've pulled them back out. So that is going round a proper beam, all into the corner there, all into the top there. And I cut that with shears, as I said, because the pencil followed that line around. All I've got to do now, I'm feeling that there's a right bump in the wall. That's what throws all your joints off, look. Don't be frightened to work these joints, keep working them. There's a bump there, like a big belly. Same all the way down. Oh. So that's it. That's doing a tricky cut. So cut your corners, feed it in, cut off any excess, carefully cut round all these shapes, and the same there. Take your time with it, and then you come to the next one. So what I'm going to do now is get that next one on and crack on, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye bye. Right, I'm back. That length's on. Trimmed up in that top corner, as I said. Left that little strip until I got the piece next to it on so I could line it up right. That's done. I don't want to make this an hour-long video, but the principle of going around that big beam up there is the same for the smaller beams. You get it into the bottom edge, you find the corners. From the corners you cut on an angle into it so you're not going over the face of the paper that will be showing. Trim the excess off. Work your fingers into the bottom edges. And then, let's do it. Bottom edges, top corners, and work your way round. Cutting. Take your time. There's no bish bash bosh. Let's just bang it on. Neat cuts. Sharp blade, sharp shears, keep your shears clean, don't have them building up with paste, and it's quite straightforward. And it's same goes for all these up there, and when we come to them I'll tell you how I'm doing it. I don't want to be spending 10 minutes showing you how to drop a piece of paper. We're coming up to a light fitting. Now this light fitting I'm going to unscrew off the little connector and take it away and go round it. Now if you're on a light fitting that you couldn't do that and you had to go round it, you drop your length down, find your shortest distance from the side, whether it's between there and there, or I know my side's going to be about there. With your shears do a neat cut all the way to there. Feed your light fitting round and then get it on and lose it that way. Get your seam roller where your joint is. You don't want joints, and I've told people before on my videos, the less joints on wallpaper the better. So where people are saying, oh, splice this, splice that, put pieces in, sometimes you have to do a splice, and I'm not adverse to putting splices in, I do it myself, but there's sometimes that you don't want to have joints seen, particularly around light fittings that can shine up and down, which are really critical. So on this instance there's 3 screws, 1, 2 and 3. Unscrew those, pull them away, take the light fitting off, go over that in one, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to show you that, I'll show you when I finish, because I don't want to show you how to put a piece of paper on a wall, because you're not going to see it, it's not a pattern. But take your light fittings off if possible. If not, look for the shortest length cut that you'll be doing so you can feed it round. Now if it was a pendant on the ceiling, you'd be pulling it through a hole in the middle. If it's a light fitting, told you about that, 4 corners cut, pull it through. On a light fitting it might be a case you have to come in from the side with a cut. If I've explained it right, give us a thumbs up. If not, give us some comments. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these light fittings off. It's only 3 screws, electrical screws, and drop the piece of paper over it. So that's that for now. See you in the next bit. Back with you with the light fitting. I've just taken it off the wall, see that? It's just there, taking it off. Don't forget, this is UK light fittings. You've got an earth wire, that's your yellow and green. You've got a blue and you've got a brown. Now if you're on the old system, you've got an earth wire, you've got a red and you've got a black. Now I mark on the wall blue to black and then brown to red. And that's your positives, your neutrals and your earths. So as long as you mark it that you know what they are, because you've got a new light fitting, i.e. new regs, with the blue, the brown and the earth. You just see that, yeah, focus on that. But your old fittings, you've got your red and you've got your black. So as long as you know that you're blue to black and your red to brown, you're away. Now I'm going to hang that, and then when I've done I'll put that back on. So safety first. Don't forget, flip your fuse board off. Don't want to get electrocuted. Right, you've probably just seen me hanging a length there in fast time, speeded it all up for you. Now what was interesting, whether you watched it or you went off for a cup of tea, I got my pattern matching up, but then I pulled it away to get the pattern match at eye level, because you always want to get your pattern match at eye level, because this wall slightly out had a bit of a fight with the edge down at the bottom. Got it, bumped it across, worked it with sponge, worked it with the hanging brush, but I made sure that the joints, you can see, let's try and get you in, the joint, I can't even see it, it's brilliant on joints, this joint there, it's not focusing, but this joint there is matching at eye level. Then I worked from that up and then down around that light fitting, pushed it across so it went straight over the fixing screw, which is great, and then where the hole is for the gubbins of the wire connector, that's there. Now I'm going to leave that to dry. I'll probably finish that and put it back on tomorrow or another day when it's all dried off, so don't damage anything. That's doing a length. Right, so you're nearly there, you're nearly advanced craft paper hanging, aren't you now? Ought to be giving you a certificate for this. I don't know what the certificate will be in, but we've just done a light fitting, going over it and cutting it out, dead easy. But no, you've seen it. Right, I'll see you on the next section. I bet we're going to be half an hour, aren't we? You'll enjoy it. I'll tell you, enjoy it. Just think of the adverts that's going to go in this video that helps those few pennies go towards that Porsche. Well, it might not be a Porsche, it might just be the petrol in my own car to get out to this job, but yeah. Back with you. Done a good number of lengths, coming into a tricky bit. We've got a length of paper that's going into an angle. Now what I've done, I've measured, because look at you, there's a link somewhere above my head for how to cut internal angles, but I'm going to briefly explain it to you. Between the edge of the paper, the paper's there, between the edge of the paper and the angle, you need to measure what distance it is. So I've done it 4 times. I've done it across the top and it measured 340 mil, a bit lower down 340, to the middle 340, and then just below the middle it started to go to 338, bit lower than that 336, and then across the bottom I was at 336 again. So I want to go into that corner there with a piece of paper cut with enough excess, and when I mean excess, just a bit of overlap. So in effect, the width of paper will be cut down to 340 plus 5 mil. I'm going to call it 5 mil so you understand it. So I'm actually going to cut a piece of paper down, cut the width, because that's roughly 520 millimeters, 52 centimeters wide. I'm going to cut a piece off. Now I've got it on the board, still use a paste table, even though this is paste the wall, because sometimes you need to be cutting your lengths down. So I'm going to cut a length top to bottom, make sure you know which is the right side and which is the left side that you're wanting. I've measured it 345 millimeters, so I'm going to show you that on the board. And what the idea is, that goes onto there with an overlap into that corner by 5 millimeters. Now you're going to say, Phil, it's not going to be 5 millimeters all the way down. I know it's not. My widest point is 340. My lowest point, i.e. shortest, is 336. So that's going to have, what, 5 mil plus 4? 9 millimeters overlap. So I want to take off that 4 millimeters. When it's on, I'll trim it off with a blade. But the idea is that goes into that corner with an overlap of 5 millimeters. That'll be nice because there's a bit of a rounded edge there. So top to bottom, that's what you do, 5 millimeters top to bottom. Where it runs out at the bottom, it's going to be wider than that, and then with a blade you just neatly cut it back so that's still got a 5 millimeter overlap. And then when you come to hang this piece, you get your laser liner or your plumb bob and you'll rehang this piece here plumb into that angle. Now you've got to make sure that that angle has the paper going up all the way into it. Don't leave it short, don't pull it away. So you might find you're having to trim off a little bit of the paper at the top all the way down to the bottom. We'll come on to that. But if you've watched the videos before, you'll know how to do it. So let's finish on that. Let's show you how it's on the board at the minute. So here we are. I've got my board there. Let's get you on wide angle. And I've got my ruler. I'll say it's a boxwood ruler, but it's not, it's plastic. I don't like using tape measures. Use a proper meter ruler. Folds up, right, by the by, it's personal preference. I've measured 345 with my fingers on there, 345, you'll just see it. And what I do, I put that against the edge, you see, that against the edge, with a pencil at the other end, and I draw it all the way along. And that's why you can't be using Mickey Mouse paste tables that have got handles on, noggins where this screw's fixing it together. You've seen that paste table, stroke, picnic table I did a review on at Christmas. Can't use that as a paste table, rubbish, can't use that. So what I've done, I've got a line there to the edge that's 345, and I'm going to cut that now. I'm going to cut that, paste that wall over there and get it on, and I'll show you. So see you in a few. Right, and there we have it. You've just seen a speeded up version. Now I'll add 5mm because I know that the curve of the corner to take it off, so at the top is just nicely overlapped round, but as I come down, you'll see it, as I come down it gets bigger and bigger. Now what I'm going to do is just get a blade. I won't do it while you're on camera. I'll get a blade and I'll trim that off all the way up, carefully cutting it not to go too much into the lining paper, so I get it equal top to bottom. Once I've done that, I'm going to hang the next piece there, overlapping it onto that piece into the corner and getting a plumb line laser on it to get it true. But I've got the beams to cut round, so you'll see me do that. So see you in a minute when I've trimmed all that down. Right, I don't know whether you can see there what I've done. I trimmed off that excess into the angle. Trimmed off the excess into the angle down at the bottom. Down here, it was just running out, well, you can probably see a few millimetres. Trim that off. Then I measured off the width of the paper that was hanging, marked it on the wall, got my laser liner to see how true it was, ran out slightly from about the middle, or 2/3 up, all the way down to the bottom. Fraction just needed trimming off. Now you saw me faffing, I will say faffing, I was fiddling around. I was making sure that the laser liner that's there was keeping me a horizontal pattern, because I was going to lose a little bit of pattern in that corner. So I've got my laser picking up on a spot on here on the last full length that flowed all the way around into that corner and then back out, so I know that the pattern visually, even though you can't really see this pattern, I mean look how you can't really see it, I know that my pattern is flowing round at the same height. So I picked a spot that I could see, just flowed it round, then I've just moved it, look, I've got my laser liner lining with the wall up. So I've got that piece that's now into the angle, no caravanning, not wrapping round in one. This is how you do proper papering. Overlap in, overlap over the top, trim off if you need to. Now you saw me using my shears, marked it with a pencil, cut on the inside of the pencil, trimmed it back. Some people are going to say, oh, you could use a blade. You can use a blade, but if you cut through that overlap that you've done into the corner, that's going to dry out and spring. I hate that. I don't like seeing that. I've done it years ago when it was like wet behind the ears. It's as easy to do a neat cut with your pencil and shears and do it that way. Same at the top. Cutting around these was like doing the big beams, and that's the same principle again. Find your corner, release that pressure, get it round, use your fingers and get it down. So that is an internal and then an external return. So sorry, external return, you know what I mean. I've gone in and then back out. Now, tip from Phil, top tip Tuesday, don't leave off on that one. Make sure you get your next one on, because if that is slightly out on your edge, and it is probably slightly out, when you get your next length against it, if that needs adjusting slightly, you've got a little bit of maneuverability. So my next one's going to be, I'm not going to show you this one because we're doing it all the way around, aren't we? This will be a full length with cuts with a beam at the top, which is very much similar to doing a big beam, which I've shown you, so we're all good on that. And again, we've got a light fitting that I'm going to unscrew and drop down. So we're nearly there, aren't we, to explain how you do professional papering when you've got awkward cuts. I know it's a bit fiddly, take your time with it, but an internal and then back out and then coming into this. And look at it, that width there is going to drop me, I've marked it on the wall already because I know where all my lengths are going to go, just beyond that light, and just probably leave me short bit gap there, but that's not a problem because once you've done one you can do them all. Don't be frightened of it. So right, I'll see you on the next bit, which will probably be papering round. Well, I won't be showing you how to do it, but I'll explain it. Papering around an alarm sensor, that's a bit tricky, bit fiddly, but we'll come on to that. Are we 30 minutes yet, or we're at an hour? Sorry everybody, those that watch an hour of my videos, I've probably got to give you a t-shirt, a bit like Radio 2's 1 year out. This will be, I've lost an hour of my life, but you're learning, aren't you? See you in a bit. I'm back. I'll be back. I am back. I said I'd just show you. I don't want to show you as in doing it, but let's talk it through. Going around one of these alarm sensors, I can't take it off. I can't take the face off. Customer's out. The alarm will go off. They're a nightmare. They're really tight on that bottom edge to prise it away to tuck your paper underneath. But not to worry. You just do the best you can. You cut in tight. You get something sharp, you know, like your spatula or a filling knife. Use something like that to push your paper in right against it. And then if you think, oh, it's got a bit of a curve to it, you want to just trim it, put some little star cuts in it to ease it in, and that's what I've done there. So if you can see, because it's got a bit of a curve to it, I release the pressure by getting my shears, cutting it there, bit more there, bit more there, and then pushed it in. And that's how I got it in all the way around there, and same up there, and just leave a bit to tuck it underneath. And that's actually quite simple when you're up against it. Now my next piece is going to be an call it an exit from an internal. You can just see I've left a bit more than a 5mm overlap on that because it does run out. So I'm going to see how I go putting my next piece in, because this is where the pattern will probably get lost and it's behind the door. So yeah, that's how you do a random alarm sensor. Tuck it in as far as you can. Bye bye. just need to show you this. Well, other than I've just moved me laser, that strip there is on the laser line. You can just see the laser line. I'll shake it about. It's on the laser line. Now look at that offcut there. This is how bad this angle runs out. It's a good about an inch at the bottom, all the way up 25mm, all the way up to nothing. I've marked it with a pencil so you can see it. So I've got to trim off that, and I'll mark it. It's marked with a pencil. I'll cut on the inside so you don't see the pencil mark when I've finished. But that just shows you how old houses can run out. I'm good round the alarm sensor, and I'm plumb on that joint there. But as the wall comes out, it runs out, so you're never going to get your pattern matching. But at least the pattern round will flow. And look at that. Look how it runs out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that away and cut it with my shears, so I'm not cutting through that overlap there. Because when I showed you before, I got a bit of a large overlap, and I've trimmed that back so it's about 5mm all the way up. So that's what I'm going to do now, and that'll be done. And I'll drop on the next one. Right, interesting stuff. Bye bye. So there we have it, showing you how to do some bit tricky wallpapering. Is it tricky? Is it not tricky? Is it tricky? Not really, I don't think so. Showing you how to go around these for ease. Take them off. Simple as that. If you can take them off, take them off. The tricky stuff was really going around these beams, making sure you cut on the corners, release that pressure, flap your paper around, trim it, just keep cutting it. Little cuts to get around these shapes, and then it goes round. Same with over the top. I've used a pencil, I've used a blade. Come into that angle, showed you how to get into that angle and back out. Then in the opposite corner, that was really bad. That really ran out by about an inch coming on the return. So that's all in there nicely in, and I've shown you, well, I've talked you through going around an alarm sensor. I won't say I've nearly done this room because I've done the video with you, not been that long, have I? But my next ones are just going to be round a radiator. That's quite simple, don't need to show you that. Just drop it down, tuck it down. This radiator can't come off, so you just make sure you cut it down to the bracket. It comes with a bit of skill, a bit of patience, you'll do it. Drop it down, and then you know where the bracket is, about there. Cut it across, cut a piece down. You'll work your way around that one. But what I would say is just get yourself a laser liner. I know you can win one at the end of the month, but get yourself a laser liner. It's so much easier when you've got wallpapers that you've got to get the pattern flowing all the way through to the corner and then round. It's best 50, 60, 70 quid you'll spend. So on that note, let's call it a day. I've told you I'm not going to show you window reveals because I've shown you that in a previous video. This today was cutting awkward beams, going down that angle around where the sensor socket is, and we've just done some lights and some switches. So thanks for listening. If I've split this into two videos, you'll probably know it's about an hour and a half long. If not, I've tried to keep it under an hour. There's a lot of information, but thanks for listening. See you on the next one, and practice, 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 because you know what practice makes? Improvement.